All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. Uh, this week, what I wanted to do, it was nice to see so many people turn in wire things, and I'm going to uh, look at those. And we did see a couple last week, but I want to critique them, and so I want to talk about again what critique means. And then I also have opened up a couple of more modules, and I believe that the due dates, I properly adjust the due dates. So I'd appreciate any feedback from people on those. We got quite a few more of the annotated bibliographies, so we're going to talk about those a little bit. And I am also going to be talking about the next the modules that I just opened. So that's a lot of ground to cover. Um, the reason why I do this each week is to provide context and also provide opportunities for people to ask questions and for me to answer questions that come through the email for everybody to hear. And as we go on, we already talked a little bit about what my take on criticism is or critiquing. And there's a story that I would always tell to my glass classes at BYU. And I think, I feel particularly moved today to share this story with you because I know it's going to be radically transformative for absolutely everybody. And that is my version of sarcasm. The story is that there was a little bird that did not fly south when they should have. And when they finally got around to flying south, it was way too cold to go more than a few miles. They almost froze to death and they just collapsed in the middle of an open field. And they were exhausted. They thought they were going to die. It was just miserable. And a cow comes up, looks at them, and ambles over and just poops right on their head. I just so nasty. But the bird very quickly realizes all of a sudden it can start feeling things again because the poop was warming it up, and it was going to live. And then after a little bit, the farm cat came by and said, you look a little stinky. Would you mind if I gave you a bath? And the bird was thinking, no, go right ahead. So the cat took it over to a pond, broke through the thin crust of ice, washed it off, and as soon as the bird realized it was all clean and happy, the cat ate it. The moral of the story is just because someone craps on your head doesn't make them your enemy. And just because someone pulls you out and cleans you up doesn't make them your friend. And I think all of us have had those kinds of people in our life. The people, like in my case, I had a couple of friends growing up that they were always a little bit, what's the word? Rough around the edges, a little bit sandpapery. They liked saying they told it how it is kind of thing, but you knew that if push came to shove, they always had your back and they supported you no matter what. And I also had those people in my life that, particularly for me in high school, for example, it was the kids running for student government. And I hope you guys' experiences are unilaterally completely different than mine. But for me, every time it was coming to that election cycle in high school, they were all smarmy and smiley to everybody, but you knew that they did not care at all. And that's kind of, they would tell you one thing, you'd vote for them, and then they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't do it," and walk away and never talk to you about it again. And it just, so I know we all have experiences like that. The reason why I say all that is because as we go through this semester, I am critiquing things, and I'm critiquing things not so that people feel bad, but I'm critiquing these things so that everybody gets a better idea of what the assignment is about. So you meet the expectations of the assignment and you fulfill the requirements of the assignment. By the end of the semester, you'll have several items that ideally you'll be happy with. But at the very least, if you follow the directions of the assignment, all of them will help you to understand the principles that we're addressing in this class. So when I apply the tools of artistic critique to what you're doing, again, critique means with intent. And when I'm applying that to what you're doing, I am telling you specifically what are the things that need to be altered so that you can get a better score on the assignment. And that's what it is. I have no problem giving everybody A's. And as long as people try, as long as people follow directions and use their own critical thinking and craftsmanship skills, that isn't a problem. Everybody can do it. You can retake the quizzes, you can redo assignments and resubmit them. And I mentioned that because there were a couple of comments I made for people who turn in the house, and they haven't altered their assignments at all. Now, I haven't graded that because I was kind of holding off, hoping that people would respond to that, but I will be grading them soon. And one of the things I wanted to mention about that too is if you see a grade like a zero, that does not mean it's locked in as a zero forever. It means you just need to go back and submit it. Or if you forgot something and I can't give you points for it, look up the note I wrote and then resubmit it. Like for example, on the work logs, the two most common reasons for getting zeros are because either the person did not label and include the total, or the second most common reason is they included the wrong elements in the work log. By that, the most common is putting the work log for module one and submitting it for the work log in module two, or including the work log for research module 7.b and putting that into the work log for module two. And so everything needs to be separated out. When there is work log, which is almost all of them, almost all the modules, you need to only include the elements that you did for that module. So, for example, the wire form, when you submit the work log, you're not going to include any of your research time. And tying in with that, closely related, is be aware of the time that you spend. This class is an intensive class. It is for everybody who's trying to graduate with an art adjacent degree. As a result of that, because it is required and it does have a lot of stuff in it, there are things that over the years we have found that we will get what we need as evidence of your learning, and you will get what you need to do the learning if you stay within about 5% of the um, uh, yeah 5% variance of the time estimate that we give for each of the module elements. By 5% variance, I mean that usually comes down to about 12 minutes per hour. So for example, if we say this whole module should take you about 14 hours and you spend 12 hours to 16 hours, that's exactly where you need to be. If you spend 3.5 hours to 5 hours on a 14-hour module, then go back and spend more time. And if you can't see how you can spend more time on it, rework the problem, redo it, do it a couple times. I have had students that did the same thing since it didn't take very long, 2 or 3 times to fulfill the time requirement. They turned in the best one, and the best one was really, really, really good. The reason I say that is this whole class, most of you guys are 2D artists. You are training your own brain in dealing with 3D issues and problems. And that proper training can only happen with putting in the time. So that's my mom. I remember when I first started the art program at BYU, I was so sick and tired because some of the things the teachers had us do I thought were just obscenely stupid. I do not want to draw for the rest of my life another egg, stick, and banana drawing. I mean, I'm just sick of that. And my mom said, hey, if you want to get the degree, each of those classes are designed specifically by the teacher to help you on that path. And whether or not it sucks, you got to suck it up and do it anyway. And I think that that's still pretty good advice. You know, 45 years later, it's still pretty good advice. So with all that being said, I'm thinking what I would like to do is I have a file that shows all the wire sculptures in there. And Caleb, if you remember, if we see one that you remember that we covered last week, just let me know and we'll skip it so we don't do the same thing again. And then, let's see. Okay, here we go. All right. All right, so I'm going to do a screen share. And I've noticed with UVU computer network, sometimes when I do the screen share, it's a little cattywampus. So give me just a second if the voice, if we lose voice and everything. But I think we should be okay. Okay, here we go. All right. Caleb, can you see what? Okay, excellent. From my perspective, this looks kind of like this looks very much to me like a head, perhaps like something that Alexander Calder would do. I One thing that I noticed right away is that this student did a beautiful job photographing this. Why is that important? It's important for a couple things, but we talked. This quiz was about covering things like what's the intent behind the work of art and stuff like that. Well, all of you guys are professional artists, and you deserve to have your work displayed in the best light possible for one thing, but also in the way that you want it to be displayed, as close as possible to that. For me, when I do a new show, when I exhibit at a place, I always find out who the person is who's curating the show, and I'll collaborate and do whatever I need to make them happy, because I found out that the artists that do that with the exhibit coordinators, they are so used to artists being snot bags that they will bend over backwards to make sure that your art is represented and placed in the best possible light. So it never is detrimental to be kind, nice, and supportive of the staff at any gallery that you're showing, particularly the gallery coordinator and the gallery curator. You know, kindness goes an awful long way. And what's really cool is that by doing that, by acknowledging that they have the power, they know their own gallery a lot better than I do. Inevitably, they do a better job lighting and presenting the show than I do. If it's a space that I control completely, that's a different story. But when it's a new space, that's always the case. So anyways, so the reason why I say all that is I really love how this is photographed. It looks to me like it's a home studio setup with the the sheet as the infinity screen, and they do a beautiful job. This is great. I also really like how it's lit, so you can see some of this activity going on underneath the or behind the neck of the head. I think that that's wonderful. As far as sculpturally, this seems to be influenced or inspired a little bit by Alexander Calder, and I really like that. I love how some of the areas are simple, some of them are a lot more complex. There's a little bit of a cubist vibe to it in some places. I like how different areas have different line qualities in it, but it's obvious that it's constructed really well, and I think that looks pretty good. Now, as we go on, Caleb, if there's one of these, we're going to look at five of them or so. If there's something that you would like to say about any of them, please let me know.
I actually noticed I really appreciated with my sculpture that I've got. Um I'm using a lot of hot glue for it. I noticed with this, there's no hot glue or anything, and I think that's very impressive. Um, to make it to like have all the attachments be tied up very tightly by like twisting. I think that's very respectable. Um, Something I'm not quite bold enough to do.
What I like too how there's different areas where there's more of that going on than others, and it lends this kind of textural quality that makes it a lot more interesting to look at. I think that's fascinating. Yeah, I would like to know how many times they stab themselves with the wire, because
Oh
that's
boy.
not easy to do. Now, this is
You
one that we
did see
talked
this
about.
one. Yeah.
This one we talked a lot about last week. The way it's photographed, it feels way too flat, so it needs to stand on its own. And I think you suggested making a vase or something. And I think that that's something that is completely worthwhile for that person to do. Now, here, before we talk about the sculpture, one thing that is very distracting is this horizontal line. And you guys should be photographing your work as best you can so it represents what you want people to see. And things like baseboards, tabletops that are a different color than the wall, stuff like that, horizontal lines like this, they all detract because we should have the work that you're showing be front and center. And that being said, one way to combat that for this is to go to like a Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby and get one of the large poster board pieces. And you can use that. And just bring your camera up pretty close, use that poster board as the infinity screen. And that can work really well. If you can't get one big enough, do something where this background is curved. By having a right angle there, it makes the shadows compound. So saying all that, I'm going to leave that aside. I really want you guys to work hard at photographing your work so that it looks the way you want it to, with whatever you have available. And since we did talk about an infinity screen with a sheet, that's something that I look for. Now, a couple of things I really like about this is just like the other one, the person paid attention to the lighting, and we get some really awesome shapes. Notice that this is standing by itself, which is that in itself is a pretty difficult part of the process, getting these to stand by themselves. That's one of the requirements for it. And I think they did a really good job. It looks to me like it's almost like a tripod that's supporting it with the 2 feet and then the bottom of the torso here. I like how the wings are relatively simple, remind me a little bit of Parowan Gap petroglyphs. And I like how there's just enough detail in the head so you can tell what's going on. This reminds me of Hedwig the Owl. And I really like look how plain those wings are, but then look, this torso is really, really fun. And the eyes on the face of the owl are really obvious. And I think all those come together very well.
Yeah. I like the mix of kind of the flatter wings and the very three-dimensional body.
Yeah, it's a really nice juxtaposition, definitely. Caleb, did you ever read Ferdinand the Bull, that children's book?
I did not know.
It's about a bull that is really huge, but it's incredibly passive. But he's brought to the bullfighting ring in Seville after he gets stung by a nest of wasps, and they think he's just really vicious and nasty. Keeps trying to convince people that he's nice, but finally they put him in the ring, and he just ignores all the bullfighters, and so they send him back home to his farm. But it is a really fun book. This reminds me kind of that. It makes me think of oxen. It makes me think of Black Angus. It makes me think of long Texas Longhorns, and I think that's really kind of fun. Some of the things I like about it is just like the owl we saw. You have the horns are really really simple. The head is really simple, but then they've gone to a lot of interesting texture, making this body feel like it's a cattle body out of just 3D scribble. And then you have this really long tail. I like in the feet, the forelegs are really simple, but it can stand by itself. I think this is really fun. I like how they use the wire to give a hint at ears back here, and then a little twist for the snout. I think that's really fun.
Mhm. I really enjoy how dynamic this pose feels.
Yes,
It
very
feels
much
like
with,
it's in motion,
yeah,
or at least is stopping to like turn around.
like with the head turned toward us
Hmm.
and that tail whipping
Yep.
around. Yeah, yeah, very
Plus,
much.
with the leg or the back leg that's kind of closer to the head, um, because of the perspective, it feels almost like it's in the air, like it's
Right,
kind of
yeah,
raised up in the air.
yeah. And I love too that this is photographed at home with a sheet infinity screen, but they've done it well enough that it looks the way it needs to. I mean, it looks good. It looks really good. And I think that was very successful too. And I like how they lit it so that you can see all the shadows of the wires.
Mhm.
That's a lot of fun. Okay, we saw this one last week. This is the Mrs. Potts Pots. Okay, this one, when I saw this, it brought back some really good memories. I am a total fan of the Michael Keaton Batman movies, and this reminds me of the Batmobile. And I was looking at that, and I think, oh, that's so cool. And then I found that they actually wrote on one of the submissions that this was the Batmobile. I thought that's a lot of fun to see. But I love how in some areas the detail is just suggested. In other areas, it's a lot more obvious. They didn't include the wheels, but they included the shape, and it's enough of a shape that you recognize it what it is right away. The wheel wells kind of hint at the existence of wheels, but I think they did a great job. And I like again how they used the sheet to make their home infinity screen. I thought this turned out really well.
Mhm. I feel like that's also very ambitious because of how complex of a shape,
Yeah,
especially the Michael Keaton Batmobile is. Um, though definitely a lot more recognizable than if you were to do like, I don't know, uh, Christian Bale Batmobile or
yeah,
something like that,
yeah,
where it's just a tank.
yeah. It's
But
not as
that's neither here
iconic.
nor there.
Yeah, but it's not as iconic as the Michael Keaton one. Yeah, definitely agree. Very cool. Now this one, I was it's not standing by itself, but I don't know if I have that much of a problem with it because it is hanging by itself, which seems to be kind of appropriate for this kind of shape. And I'm wondering if because it also looks kind of like that this could stand up by its own. I don't know if I would like to see if there's like a three-quarters view because it almost looks like this could be flat as well. But some of the things I like about this, one of the things I really like about this is again, nice job with the background. One of the things I really like about this is it reminds me of that 3D dimensional mapping that they did in computer graphics in the 80s. And I think that is really fun. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the movie Tron, but they
No, but
did a
I
little
know
bit of
about
that.
it.
Okay. But I thought this is really a fun shape. And it's a cattle skull. And I think that's really neat. Now,
Mhm.
what do you think about having it suspended like that instead of resting on its own?
Um, I think it adds a little bit of uniqueness. It also does what is it? It kind of gets the idea of what it is like across a little bit better. However, um that could also just be like all they really could do to um especially if it's like a little more flat. Though my question is, why not if you have um like a way to do this to like almost prop it up like on a slant, you could get either like an aerial shot of the sculpture, or you could even um like get a more unique angle at the photo
Oh,
Um,
like maybe having that vertical line attached
mhm,
closer to somewhere in the middle of the forehead, for
mhm.
example.
Yeah, like or my thought process is you could do without. I feel like the string here is done out of necessity, though I think are also some other ways of getting this angle, or even just doing a different angle entirely.
Mm,
So it could still stand up on its own if it's like placed down on the floor.
right,
But to do that, you'd have to either do a fully like overhead angle photo, or you could prop it up slanted and take the photo that way.
right. Yeah, and those are all good points. And last year somebody did a wireframe cattle skull like this, and they actually took a photo. They went out to their farm and sat it on a fence post
Hmm.
and photographed it like that.
Yep.
And that turned out really, that was
Hmm.
pretty dramatic. Maybe we don't want to do that because we're focusing on the sculpture itself, but it was sure neat. Yeah, but those are
Hmm.
those are all really good points.
Yep. I would like to say though, real quick, I really like the extra lines that are kind of going
Yes.
around the shape.
Yeah.
Um, because they feel very uneven and almost like cracks. Like this cow skull has been out in the elements for so long, there
For
are a
quite
lot
a
of
while.
cracks forming.
Yeah. And I like, in my mind, I also like, since I'm associating with the 3D wireframing, I kind of like the juxtaposition of, this hinted geometry at a very organic form. I think that's kind of a fun juxtaposition for me too. Okay, here's the last one. This one I think is really interesting to me because it reminds me of Gumby's horse, and it is interesting to me because of how they put it together. And it's standing up on its two legs and the tail in front of a sheet, but it almost looks like it was drawn on a piece of glass that was placed in front of the sheet, which I just think is really interesting. But I like how simple these legs are. You've got some chaotic stuff going on in the midsection, very simple mane, and then there's a lot of detail spent on the head. I think that's interesting to me. And again, it reminds me of Alexander Calder, just like the portrait that we saw at the beginning. So I think that's really interesting.
Mhm. It feels a lot like a gesture drawing, like put into the real world.
Yeah, and that was one of the requirements, or one of the elements talked about in the assignment. Making it look like a gesture drawing, and it is kind of neat that they were able to do that and bring it into the 3D world, like you said. So yeah, definitely. All right. So that is we have 8 of those that were turned in so far, and we looked at them all. I think that's a lot of fun. Um, they were due on Sunday. Do the best you can if you haven't turned it in to turn it in this weekend. Get it done as quick as you can. We want to get those done and out of the way so we can work on other things in the future. So, but yeah, those are looking pretty good. Now, let's see. I want to go through. I want to go through the artist research thing. And Caleb, if you remember them, just let me know and we'll just go on. Because I think a couple people did resubmit their stuff after we talked about it, which is pretty good. And if I haven't graded it yet, just email me and let me know. Okay, so I'm gonna share this one. Okay, looking at this, some of the things we look for is it needs to be all the citations need to be alphabetical. All of the citations need to be in correct format. They need to have the accessed on date. All of these have the accessed on date. They all look like they're in pretty close, the a really pretty good format. But one of the other major requirements is that there need to be two paragraphs, paragraph that summarizes the material in the source and a paragraph that is your reflection on it. And all of these only have one paragraph. And another thing that is very important is that they need to be in alphabetical order according to the citation. And these two, the Luscombe does come after Lancelin, but then Davidson should come earlier. Macallan will come after Luscombe, and then A Guide to the Life and Work of British Artists, that will be the very first one.
Okay. I was actually about to ask about that since it doesn't have an author tied to it. I was gonna ask, like, do you prefer that it just be alphabetical no matter what?
It needs to be alphabetical, beginning with the first letters of
Okay,
the entire citation,
good to know.
regardless of what you're able to put into it. So yeah, that's a good question. Okay. So I am switching to the next one. Okay, here we go. Did we talk about this one last time? I think we might have.
Yes,
Okay.
it's familiar.
Okay. Okay. This one I don't think we talked about last time. We might have. I don't think so.
It seems slightly familiar, but
Yeah, it does
let's.
seem some familiar.
I'd be fine to cover it again.
Okay. Because what I'm seeing is that this person, everything is in alphabetical order. I'm seeing the citations are all having that accessed on date, which is excellent. All of them do. Okay, great. And I'm seeing that each of them have the two paragraphs. I think this is a beautiful example of this assignment. I think they did a great job. That is excellent. Yeah, if anybody has any problem with this, I have included in the assignment, I gave you guys a list of several different places to go to help with creating the citations. And if you need any additional help, let me know. But all of these are, if for example, you don't get full points, I always write down why. And I want you to get full points. So just go back and um, fix it, redo it. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Now, this is something that a lot of people think is not correct. And I believe it actually is. The full name is Angela de Berger, but the DE is definitely part of the last name. And so it should be DE space Berger, and that's the last name. So it will be alphabetized under DE. So
Mhm.
I'm looking at this, accessed on. We've got two paragraphs. This one, Helen Jaris. Yeah, that's not looking bad. Two paragraphs again. Kieran, excellent. This is looking pretty good. That's three in a row that have the accessed on date. Mark Langen, Kieran, good. This is looking really good. And Pechi Kucha. This is looking really good. Yeah, I think that this is a great example because it seems to have everything we're looking for. All the citations are in alphabetical order according to the citation. Each of the citations are following MLA standard and have the accessed on date. And each one, they have a paragraph that is descriptive or a summary, and a paragraph that is their, um, I forgot the word, reflection. So I think that is another really good example. Okay, here's the next one. Okay, there's something that I see right away. There isn't a name for the article or the website, and that needs to be included.
Mhm.
Some, if this is Hauser with, then the website would be there, or if there's an article and the article is titled Henry Moore, then that needs to be in there. It needs to be in parentheses or quotes. There also needs to be a period after this citation, after the URL, and there needs to be a period after the accessed on date. So those are mostly cosmetic. And I'm looking, they did a great job with the two paragraphs. This is looking really good. It has the name of it, the date of publication, and everything. One thing that I hope I need people to pay attention to is if you are going to be using periods as your punctuation in the citation, every citation in that paper need to have the same use of punctuation. So there should be a period after the URL and a period after accessed on date. So we look right here. Instead of periods, this has commas.
Mhm.
They need to be replaced with periods. And this
Mhm.
is correct. There's a period after that, and there needs to be a period after this.
I actually have a question with that, which is I'm wondering why for that YouTube video the the name of the either the YouTuber or the channel wasn't listed. Is that normal for citing a YouTube video or is that abnormal?
Well, that is an excellent question. And I would actually go on, use three of those generation engines that I provided you with to put in the exact same URL and see what they do
Mm-hmm.
and see how they agree with each other. Sometimes just the title is going to be good. Sometimes it also needs the author or the publisher, and
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of that is varies from the priorities and how the web page is set up and everything like that, and how the AI of the citation generator reads what it sees. The best way to resolve that is to do two things. One, put it into three different citation generators and see what the consensus is. That's one. And the second is you can look up on YouTube. There are several colleges that will talk about how to do MLA citations and where to go for help in MLA citations. And usually it is a website with an AI interface. And
Mm-hmm.
you look for one of those on YouTube that is from a college, and that will be an excellent source to help resolve that question.
Sounds good.
So the answer is it depends.
Mm.
Okay, and
Or
this,
an I don't know yet.
yeah, we're still learning. Now, on this one, notice that they don't necessarily need an access on date because this is the textbook for the class, but they do have it, and that is great. Again, it needs a period after that. And this is, sometimes like this has an extraneous space right there, and that type of thing doesn't really bother me. But they do need to just double check if the periods are all in the right place because it should be the authors, the title, publisher, and publishing date. Usually the three different phrases that are separated by periods, and then one after that. And then what I notice is that even though they have the two paragraphs and that's looking good, the citations are out of order alphabetically. So again, in this case, Henry Moore should have a period after that, and then the website period, and then access. This access date needs to follow the format of all the other ones, which means the month and day. And they should always
Mm-hmm.
have the month and day, not just the year. So I think those are pretty good. And so on this one, I would ask the person go to a couple different citation machines and double check them. Make sure you have periods everywhere you need to, as after the end of, including after the end of the accessed on date, and make sure that all of your entries are alphabetically arranged according to the first letters of each of the citations. So that's what I would have this person double check. But I really like how they did the 2 paragraphs and everything. I think those are really well done. So I'm hoping that this is helping, looking at these and everything. Because everybody needs to do these. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So this is a book. They have the access on date as well. If you have the information to find the exact edition of the book, you don't necessarily need this. But in my mind, it never hurts to have it. I'm thinking this is looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they have 2 paragraphs like we need. And let's see this one. Check the alphabetization. Goldsworthy, Andy, time. This is Goldsworthy, Andy, A. So this is definitely before this other one. And I'm liking how they're doing. These are all the same. This is looking great. 2 paragraphs again. Oh, and they look. I don't know. It looks like this might be a video. Yes, it says it's a documentary. Okay, excellent. You just need to make sure that they've got this cited correctly. And if anything seems a little bit wonky, use multiple um, website generator services and compare them and go with the consensus. Okay. Very. All right, this is looking pretty good. This is the only one that really seems out of place. And this says Andy Goldsworthy, period. One of the things I mentioned when you're alphabetizing, you alphabetize by first letter in matching phrases. So this one, Andy Goldsworthy, period, should, if we go all the way up to the beginning, it should be over up there. Let's see if it's this is the title. So the first letter you're alphabetizing is the A. So when that should actually be the very first entry. When the title is Andy Goldsworthy and that is the first word or phrase, that needs to come in front of this. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And I am saying things like that. I think it's important that people know um, what they need to do to get full points. And because I want you guys to go back, change this, and redo it, redo the full points.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looks like this one does not meet the format of this. I'll share this tab. This does not meet the format of the annotated bibliography at all. This feels more like it is the background essay, the opinion essay. Because what we need for this, and I explain it pretty clearly in the assignment, 5 sources on the artist that you've picked, with the first, or the opening of each source is a citation of the source, complete with at the in proper MLA format, complete with at the end of that, after the last period, is the accessed on date, closed by a period. Then 2 paragraphs for that source. One is a summary, and the second is a reference, or is the reflection. And you do that for each of the 5 sources. So that's why I'm saying this looks like it may be all working from one source right there. And it is 5 paragraphs, which is using an opinion essay. And that's the last assignment for this that you do. So this needs to be reworked so it actually reads as an annotated bibliography. And I want to show people, let's see, if we go to this page, this is, basically the opening page, and we go to Artist Research Annotated Bibliography, click on that. The annotated bibliography right here, so it discusses what the assignment is. And if I click on that, this video right here describes how to use MLA format. And then we have 5 different citation machines. That's what I'm saying, if there's any questions, go to 3 of them and use the consensus. But this person just did 5 paragraphs. I only see 1 reference to a citation, and the citation is not an MLA format. So I would suggest that they go back through, read this again, and just go through the steps. And if somebody is confused, please reach out to me, and we can do a video call and talk through it. And I've done that with several students, and that has really helped them. So, I would say to this one, don't get rid of this at all, but keep it and see if you can adapt it later on for the opinion essay. Because the opinion essay is just going to be your response to it. It's not going to include any of this kind of biographical information. But that's what I would recommend for this one.
Mm-hmm.
And go back and reread the assignment. So you can follow the directions of the assignment. Whoever made that one. Okay, so for the most part, I think that those are really pretty good. And now, so do you have any questions about this annotated bibliography? And since
Not particularly.
Everybody in the class wanted to do the artist research, nobody wanted to do the service learning, and that is completely fine. It makes my job a lot easier. But yeah, so if you guys do have any places that you don't understand what's going on with this artist research stuff, let me know, and we will definitely talk about it at the next weekly meeting. And if you want, we can even do like a FaceTime call or whatever you young kids call that thing nowadays. And we can work on it. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is show you what I've been a little bit. And I open these up, structure with the skin and carved biomorphic abstraction. Both of them are open. If the due dates look a little bit close, let me know. I think they look to me like they are right where they're supposed to be. And I don't know if you remember, I've had people complain, well, why is this stuff due right now when we're still finishing up another module? Do you remember what I had to say about that?
Not off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem at all. What I was saying is I want them to overlap because I want you to be anticipating stuff and be ready for it. So when you're done, you can apply what you've learned and what is in the module to the very next project. Because all of these build and compound on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And for number 3, structure with the skin, what we are doing is something very specific where we're paying attention to the balance of the exterior of an object and the interior bracing. I don't know if you ever have you seen ever seen Ghostbusters 2?
Yes, long time ago.
Okay, yeah, it is an older movie. In that the ultimate scene is they saved New York by animating the Statue of Liberty. And this is what the girding looks like on inside, which I think is really very interesting. And of course, it was designed by the same set of engineers as designed the Eiffel Tower. And hopefully you can kind of see that a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the copper sheeting used to cover it is the thing that gives it its iconic form. And what we are doing is addressing both of these ideas, the interior structure and the skin, by creating something in this module that balances those visually. So you're going to build something where you can see some of the structure, and the structure supports some of the skin. So you can see both of it. And the quiz is chapters 5 and 12. And the questions, I hope everybody realizes by now that if you just go to the internet to look up the questions, you're not going to get correct answers because a lot of those questions are ringers that the only correct answer comes directly out of the textbook. But all these quizzes are open book, so everybody can join them. In the background of this, what I like is that all of these artists deal with these kinds of ideas of the structure underneath, the skin on top. Sometimes the skin isn't present but is implied. Sometimes the structure isn't present but is implied by how the skin looks. Like Richard Serra does a lot of stuff where he's dealing with a steel, heavy duty steel
Mm-hmm.
looking like a skin, but he's curved it, moved it, done different things to it, so it feels like the air is pushing against it, and it's really interesting. So go through all these videos, check these guys out. I think there's some really amazing stuff. This one is particularly fascinating to me. Richard Deacon is somebody who does very intricate, very nicely engineered structures, and the skin is not present most of the time. But because of the way he's presented the structure, the wood, the edges of the wood that he uses imply a skin, and you can almost feel the skin. I'm going to blow this up a bit so you can see that. This is one of his structures, but with all this girding and everything, it feels almost like there's a skin holding it together. And I love that. I think that's really amazing. And then we have Frank Gehry, who have you seen the Get Smart? Oh, hi Rebecca. The Get Smart movie with Steve Carell, because the ultimate showdown between the good guys and the bad guys takes place at the Disney Opera House in California, and that was designed by Frank Gehry. And I like Frank Gehry quite a bit because he didn't get started until he was 53. He that's not that's when he actually started really being the architect that everybody recognizes now. And Buckminster Fuller is pretty amazing. So each of these people did different things addressing that kind of intersection of structure and skin. I want you guys to look at it. And as always, the prompts for the artist reviews is you must use the artists that are in that background section of this module. And that's true for all of the artist reviews. Now we get to this. And right now I'm at Snow College, and they've done some of these things. These are not taken from Snow College. These are from Mesa College in Colorado. But Snow College, they do the same kind of thing as we're doing, and they have some really interesting things that they've done as well. And this is a fairly simple sounding idea, but the way it's implemented can be, there's an infinite number of ways you can implement this. What you are essentially doing is designing a relatively simple module, geometric module that you can replicate and make 5 to 8 copies of. And each of these individual modules should be about the size of a baseball or so. And each of these modules are going to have elements of both skin and structure. And then when you put them together, you're going to stack them, spin them around, do different things with them so that you activate space, the volume of space around it. And so that we can see and appreciate both the structure and the skin. Now, out of these 3 examples, I'm going to talk about the different ones, and then I'm going to tell you what I think the best one, what the best one is for this assignment. And I also include a link to polyhedra.net so you guys can get ideas from that for your modules construction. Last year, somebody asked me, can we make the modules organic? I don't do that. It's going to be a lot easier on you, and this is going to be a lot more successful if the modules are geometric. And it'll make sense after we're done talking about this. Now, this one on the right, I think that it follows the assignment, but it doesn't quite work as well as I would hope. The module appears to me to be 2 trapezoids that are joined at the narrow leg or the narrow cross brace. And one of the 2 trapezoids have a trapezoidal piece of paper glued to it as the skin. And there are areas where the skin kind of hides what's behind it. There are other areas like right here, right through here, right here, right here, where the skin is on the far side of the structure, so it acts almost like a framing device for the structure. And I think those elements are really interesting. I also like how this seems to wind like a very active snake through space, and it does serve to activate the volume of space around it. I think that works really well too. However, where I feel that this falls short is this does not have a really easily identifiable geometric module. It doesn't have 5 to 8 modules. We can say the module are these two trapezoids hooked together in the short cross brace, but that feels like it's almost arbitrary, and I don't think this is as successful as it could be. If they had done, made these shapes and then connected these two corners on each of the trapezoidal pairs, and then worked with that, that might be really interesting. And there are some areas to me, like right through here in the middle, there is nothing going on that shows the use of skin. And so I think that this is an interesting idea, but it doesn't work for the assignment. Now, the skin and structure, your kits have skewers, different things like that. Those are really good to use as structures. Wooden matches are really good. Probably stay away from chopsticks. I think one of the least successful ones I've seen is pipe cleaners because they just have no strength. And another really bad one is, maybe I shouldn't use word bad. Um, we'll say less successful, and I'm implying it's a really bad idea. And that is somebody used tiny noodles for the cross braces. They also used dried seaweed for the skin. It was an interesting idea, but I mean, if you burped in the room around it, the whole thing would collapse. So don't do that. Now, the next one, this one I think is better on the far left. If we look at this right here, and this right here, and then these two, it looks to me like the module is almost a milk crate with this triangular notch taken out of one of the long sides. And then we have cardboard on two faces. One face is removed from the milk crate shape by about a half an inch, and the other shape is attached, or the other piece of skin is attached directly to the milk crate itself. One of the things that's successful about this is that it moves and winds as it travels upward from the right to the left in a way that really activates the volume of space around it. Another thing that I think is really successful is how many modules they've done. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 modules altogether, and I think that that is a really good idea. And I do like how they played around with the cardboard skin. One thing I don't particularly like about it is that all we see from this perspective is the skin for the most part. We're hinted at the structure right here, but there doesn't seem to be a really conscientious effort to maintain a visual balance between structure and skin. Some of the things you can use for structure are, we already talked about skewers and stuff like that. Some of the things you can use for skin, this person used cardboard, this person used washi paper, this person used stationery paper. Some of the other things you can use are, some people have actually crocheted the skins. Other people use washi tape, which is really interesting. If you're going to do that, don't use washi tape with designs, use flat color washi tape. Other people have used index cards, like I say in this, where they just cut up the index cards into the shapes to cover to fulfill the skin requirement. People have held this together with super glue, with epoxy Gorilla Glue, as well as tying it with thread. I think one of the grossest ones is somebody actually used gum at each of the joints to hold it together. Gross. So the most
I'm not touching that.
Yeah, that's ick.
Good for you, I guess.
And yeah, if nothing else, yay. But but this one, I think this middle one is the most successful out of all of these. And you can see the shape is a couple of three triangles formed together, where we have a large triangle and then two smaller triangles right here. Each of them are made with two triangles of skin, and how they've stacked this so that there's one orientation where they seem to be circling away from us, and then they've reversed that orientation so that the part that was farthest away is now closest to us, and again, it rotates away from us. Some of the things that I think are really good is by doing that, these 8 modules, these regular elements, we can see the structure in the center for the most part, and it makes this really fascinating visual rhythm. And then we see the skin on those triangles, and some in the triangles farther away, like the fourth one up on the left-hand side, it serves to help frame the structure that's in front of it. And immediately to the right on the very top, those 4 triangles all feel that they are hiding the structure, underneath them, where they are very important. And I think that that's a really fun way to do this, because it feels to me like they're very close to achieving a balance between the structure and the skin. And I think with all of them, this is the most successful. So again, 5 to 8 modules, and I do recommend simple geometric shapes. There can be variation, like some of the more common variations are sizes or twisting. By twisting, sometimes it's like if you're doing a three-sided pyramid, maybe they all have they all are close to approximately the same size, all the size of the baseball, but maybe a couple of the three-sided pyramids are really tall compared to their base, and maybe another couple are almost um, every face is the same shape and size. And maybe another one is maybe you have a couple where the pyramids are really short, very squat, and the edges or the faces are shorter than the width of the pyramid. So you can make variations like that, but it does need to obviously be modules that relate to each other, and they need to be about this big, about the size of a baseball. By relating to each other, I mean if you're going to make tall and narrow pyramids, make tall and narrow pyramids with maybe a couple variations. If you're going to make cubes or octahedrons or things like that, make the same shape, make multiple of the same shape. And like I said, you can vary the size a little bit, but try to keep as close as possible to the same shape. What can be frustrating is um, you guys can see the paper models of polyhedra, right? Okay. Can you see my mouse when it's in front of it? Okay. Sometimes one of the things that can be kind of frustrating is when a person makes one of these, one of these, one of these, and then one of these and puts them all together. Those are not for the same module. You need 5 to 8 modules, so the module should be towards the simpler end, so you can make 5 to 8 of them. But they all need to visually relate to each other. Like I said, you can tweak size a little bit, proportion a little bit, but for the most part, they need to be very similar enough that you can cognitively group them into the same general form.
Mm. I've got a quick question with the variation.
Okay.
Could there be some variation in, say, color, or would you rather it stay fairly monochrome?
That's an excellent question. And I'd say, yeah, change color. That's great.
Yeah.
Um, on some of these that I've seen, people made uh, like 20 little tetrahedrons. That's the four-sided triangle form. And in the ones that they did, they may have used like 6 or 7 different kinds of skin, different kinds of paper on it. And some of them you can see the back side of the paper, some of them you can see the front
Hmm.
side. It was just really fun. They stayed within, some people did the primary colors plus green. Some people have uh, done variations on the same color, so it's like different shades or different takes on the same color, or used a print selection of the color. By that I mean maybe one of the skins has um, text on it that's black, and
Mm-hmm.
then red and blue imagery. Not even imagery, but decoration. And then another set of skins are blue, and another set of skins are red. So they have those kind of things all going together. So visually, it looks like they're using the same color palette. So, and you can do either of those directions.
Sounds
Some
good.
other skins that have been successful is like, I don't know if, do you guys still, do you know what a transparency is?
Um,
It's basically,
Probably.
okay,
Elaborate just for the sake of it.
it's a clear sheet of plastic. Yeah, and you can print on them, do different things like that. People have used transparencies. People have also used like shrink wrap, like the saran wrap type of thing. And one of the more interesting ones that I've seen is somebody put down layers of shrink wrap, painted them with different colors or glue, different things like that, then put out other layers, another layer on top of it. And when it all dried, they cut them out and used that as their skins. And that was fascinating. Very interesting stuff. So lots of different kinds of things that you can do with it. And we'll talk more about that after you take the quiz next week. But um, there's a discussion where you post these elements to it, and we will talk about it more as people produce these and turn them in. And I think next week I will show you some examples of a previous class as well. But I wanted everybody to be ready for this because you are going to be starting on it. That is the project that is starting this week, immediately after you finish the wire forms. So, and then the last thing I wanted to show you was um, module 4. And we're not going to talk too much about module 4. I said I didn't want to go much over an hour. If we go to module 4, I want to show this to you. Again, it's open so everybody can look at it. The carved biomorphic abstraction. And this is, I will do a whole thing where I talk about what abstraction is, but that I think everybody has two blocks of foam in their kit, a large one and a small one. The small one is intended to be the base, and you can wrap that with paper or paint it or whatever. The large one you're going to be carving so that you have an organic abstract form, and you don't have any of the flat surface of that original block visible on any of the sides. And in addition to that, when you guys are done carving it, so, familiarize yourself with this when you can. What you're going to be, and I haven't opened up this one yet, you're going to be learning what texture and color can do to something. Then this is a short module, but you're going to be covering that carving you make with paper mache. And the reason I'm doing that order is your final thing that you're making, the final object is going to be taking that biomorphic organic carving that you make, doing the paper mache on it, and then applying as much texture and color as you can from the things you learned in module 5. And I haven't opened module 5 yet. That's coming soon, but that's what that assignment is. So, the carving, you're building, um, you're revisiting it twice. So, and that's something that we'll talk more about next week and the week after. All right, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover today. It was fun to look at wire sculptures from people. Again, remember to submit your thing in the discussion board for that module, because that's what people are going to reference when they do their self and peer critiques. Okay. Well, when they do this peer critiques, when you do your self critique, you can use any of the objects you made for this class this semester.
All
All
right.
right. Any final questions or observations from Caleb or Rebecca?
No, I
All
think we're
right.
good to go. Or at least I
All right.
am. I can't speak for Rebecca.
Yeah, all good to go. Thank you so much.
What's that?
Oh,
I'm
I don't
sorry.
have any other questions or anything.
Okay. All right. Excellent. One of the things that somebody asked me was, do I need to still submit the 5 things I noticed or learned when I attend live? And the answer is yes. All the attendance things, you submit 5 things you noticed or learned, whether you attended live or watched the recording. That doesn't make any difference. So just remember to do that. And if you have a 0, go back, do it, submit it, and the 0 will change. So don't ever be satisfied with a 0 in my class. Do what you need to. Look at the comments I've made, ask for clarification, and then resubmit. I want everybody to get an A in this class. All right. Thank you very much for coming with me and joining me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful week and weekend, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are doing and talking to you again next Wednesday.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.